As many of you know, earlier this week, Mike Wilbon released an article called Mission Impossible, African Americans and Analytics, that caused a bit of a firestorm of response, I guess. The premise of Mr. Wilbon's article was essentially that African Americans and advanced NBA analytics don't mix. That he hadn't, he was saying he searched around, he looked at all of the people around him. He's a sports journalist, so he's around a lot of sports journalists. He's around NBA locker rooms. He's just around the sport a lot. And his premise was that he never ran into any black people that used NBA analytics on really any type of level, be it in casual conversations like those in the barbershop. He referenced those, or even in a more in-depth way that is just, he didn't see any black people using the analytics. He felt like, therefore, that there must be a reason for that. And the rest of the article, he went into maybe what some of those reasons were. He talked to a couple of NBA players from Golden State, Draymond Green and Sean Livingston, and got their opinion on it. He talked to J.A. Adande, another African-American sports reporter and writer, and got his opinion. And, the article speculated on everything from, maybe black people are just more emotional, and analytics is just too dry, and he went into just a variety of different reasons why he thought maybe black people and analytics just don't mix, and ended the article with some kind of speculation, but also maybe a bit of worry that if the NBA is moving more towards an analytics approach, and there aren't, according to him anyway, aren't any African Americans that do NBA analytics, that this could be a problem, that it could be potentially a way that African Americans were held out of the front office of or the control positions of the future NBA. For me personally, as you may be able to tell, I happen to be African American, and I feel like I'm kind of one of the poster children for NBA analytics. I can't get I love NBA analytics. I like the approach. I like what you're able to, the way that you're able to understand the game better and in more depth and more layers, kind of the more analytical the approach that you take to it. And so being that that's who I am, obviously I had some disagreement with a lot of the things Mr. Wilbon was saying, and I wrote a piece earlier this week, essentially in response to that, to Wilbon's article, and I even, stole pieces of his title. So I titled my piece, Mission Possible, Black People Absolutely Do Use NBA Analytics. And, I posted it on the blog through rotowire.com, and I definitely encourage you to check that out. But my piece was kind of responding to Wilbon's to say essentially like, no, African Americans, absolutely do use NBA analytics. If nothing else, I'm an example, and I am, not. Maybe the problem I suggested in the article is that maybe Mr. Wilbon doesn't know enough people, to know that there are some of us out here that absolutely do use and speak about and even write about NBA analytics. But for the rest of, I guess, this clip, I want to kind of speak in my own words, some of my responses. And Mr. Wilbon doesn't have to necessarily know me personally, but if you're going to make general comments about, groups of people that may or may not be doing analytics, then I think you have to go to the places where people do analytics. Analytics is still a niche kind of subgroup as far as those that are heavily into it. It's not as mainstream. The box score It's been around for 50, 80 years. So, and by the way, the box score is a type of analytics as well. But that's become part of the casual conversation for people of all races. Is like, oh, how many points he scored? How many rebounds he got? He got a triple-double? Like, those are accepted analytics because they've been around for so long. That's what everybody does. But if you want to hear a conversation about, true shooting percentage or wins above replacement players or regularized, adjusted, plus, minus, the same way you won't hear that a lot necessarily in barbershops, in black barbershops, you're also not going to hear that a lot, necessarily in most bars or, most casual environments that people of any race are hanging out. And I saw that actually is some of the pushback that Mr. Wilbon was receiving, especially on Twitter. I saw that example given, and it's true. There's just not a lot of people that are casually discussing NBA analytics. It's not a black thing. It's just it's still a niche. It's still a niche audience. And so, if you want to get an idea of the people who are into analytics, as I said, you got to go to where the analytics are. So, every year there's a conference called the MIT Sloan Analytics Conference. It's a conference on sports analytics, and I went to it a couple years ago. It's like I said, it's based out of MIT, so it was in Massachusetts. I went to it. I thought it was great. There were thousands of people there, and I was not the only black person there. So right off the bat, if your premise is going to be none of us do it, obviously I'm black. Us meaning black people. Then you have to go to some place where analytics are being done and observe. And so I believe if Mr. Wilbon would have done that, he would have seen that no, there were some black people there looking into sports analytics, be it as part of their profession or, in my case, part of, just wanting to get a better handle on it because this is something I enjoy. So that's kind of my first point. We shouldn't make generalized comments on who are or are not doing a thing if we're not going to spend the time to actually look where that thing is being done to see if there are people of certain groups or types there. So that's one. The second thing that was maybe that I didn't agree with, and I guess a lot of people didn't agree with based on the pushback that I saw to the article, is the notion that there's something inherently about black people that would keep us from being interested in analytics. That's taking that first point and then, if that's faulty, building on it with something even faultier or riskier, because, in the article, Mr. Wilbon suggests, well, we're an emotional people and we, I think examples were given that maybe we're more likely to dance in the end zone or give a high five as opposed to really breaking down the numbers behind something. And that's where it starts getting a little dangerous because, we can be an emotional people. As the people around me know, I don't think there's anybody more competitive than me. There's nobody that wants to win more than me. So, when I'm watching a game, when I'm watching my team, I'm going to be into it. I'm going to be cheering. I'm going to be emotion as high as anybody else. But at the same time, the way my mind works, I'm going to be paying attention to the numbers. I'm going to be paying attention to the trends. I'm going to be paying attention to the guy with the ball. If he just keeps going right, he never goes left, then, I'm going to notice it, and somewhere someone's keeping track of how many times he goes right versus left. And so there's going to be an analytic that describes what that player is doing. And I think that's part of the game that all it does, all those analytics do is just help us understand the game better. And so, yes, I'm black. Yes, I have strong emotions. But yes, I'm absolutely analytics driven. And I don't feel like I'm the only one out there. And I think it's kind of dangerous to suggest that may be the case. But then from there, we move into the part of the article where I really feel like Mr. Wilbon might have been raising something interesting. And that, when he starts going on into how NBA front offices are more and more analytics driven, and that, if there aren't a lot of African Americans that are being hired to do this, then that, potentially could be a problem. And to me, that speaks to an issue that moves beyond sports and moves beyond sports analytics and just into the society as a whole. Because, I am, I'm a PhD in biomedical engineering. I've gone to some of the best schools in the country. I got my PhD from the University of Michigan. I did a postdoctoral fellowship at Duke University. So there are, to Mr. Wilbon's point, I am often, there are many times when I'm in a professional environment and there are not a lot of people around that look like me. Anyway, the point of all of this is that there was an article written by Mr. Wilbon about basketball analytics and whether African Americans have any part in them. I believe that we do. I believe I'm an example of one person that is very analytics driven, and I'm not the only one. I would love for there to be more African Americans, especially in the front office positions, analytics driven front office positions. And, I think that is something that, that needs to be looked at and thought about and examined. But there's nothing inherent that keeps us from doing this. It's an important part of the game, whether you're black, white, or any race. And, it's mission possible. Black people and hopefully everyone else absolutely do use NBA analytics.